You didn't say you were looking for traps? Roll a DC-20 dexterity save or you're dead. This is a classic example of the harsh style of DMing that has come to be recognized as one of the worst in the hobby. Gotcha DMing will turn an otherwise engaging and exciting game into an exhausting test of the player's patience and commitment. In the early days of the game, this style was not only popular, but it was even endorsed by some of the game's creators. Gary Gygax was infamous for his devilishly designed traps and deadly dungeons. One of his most notorious creations is the Tomb of Horrors. This dungeon is filled with crow tricks, deadly traps, and deceitful misdirection. There is very little combat involved in the adventure, but even a single misstep could result in instant death, making it more of a slaughterhouse than a traditional heroic quest. It was designed as a challenge for more experienced players, but it was also a strong reflection of the gacha DMing, where the DM attempts to catch the players off guard and to punish them for their oversights and mistakes. In the early years of D&D, this was considered normal. Dungeons & Dragons initially grew out of wargaming. Their strategic competition was the main focus. The idea of the DM as an antagonist creating brutal challenges for the players to overcome was widely accepted. However, as the role-playing aspect of the game developed, it has thankfully fallen out of favor. Gotcha DMing remains the fastest way to ruin the fun of your players and to end the campaign before it even started. You're also more than a little likely to lose some friends. The underlying assumption of this approach to the game is that there is a competition between the players and the DM. This is a fundamental mistake. It shows a misunderstanding of the game's basic structure, or from an extended experience we have with video games before we get into D&D. While the DM controls all antagonists, NPCs, and even the world itself, D&D is not a PvP game. Viewing Dungeons & Dragons as a contest between the DM and the players presents an incomplete understanding of the game. From a purely resource-based standpoint, if we just have a look at the amount of resources each side has, the players and the DM are on a vastly different playing field. Players have a very limited set of resources. They have their characters with their specific abilities, skills, and equipment. Their power to shape the game world is confined within the boundaries of these characters. They can only be in one place at a time. They can only fight a certain number of battles per day, and they can only know or do what their own characters can know or do. Their agency is confined to the relatively narrow perspective where their party is and what they're up to. Contrast this with the Dungeon Master, who has an effectively unlimited array of resources. The DM designs the world, populating it with cities, forests, dungeons, and any other locales they can imagine. They conceive of the villains, from petty thieves to ancient dragons, and they decide what their motivation is and how they plan to accomplish them. DMs can introduce sudden twists and turns in the plot. They can decide that a natural disaster is going to ruin the plans of the party. They can even use divine intervention. They are free to steer the narrative in a new direction. In essence, the DM shapes the very reality in which the characters exist. They have the entire game world at their fingertips, and they can manipulate it at will. If the game was a competition, this would present an insurmountable imbalance of power. This is why it's important to understand that Dungeons & Dragons is not designed as a competitive game with winners and losers. Rather, it's a cooperative storytelling game where everyone works together to create an epic narrative. DMs aren't there to defeat the players. We facilitate the adventure and respond creatively to the actions of the party. The true goal of the game is for everyone involved to have fun and contribute to a shared story. A good DM is not the enemy of the players. They are a guide. To foster this cooperative atmosphere, it's important as a DM to be on your player's side. This doesn't mean your monsters should be pushovers, or to start fudging dice rolls in the player's favor. It simply means creating an environment where the player's creativity, role-playing, and tactical decisions are rewarded. One helpful approach is to remember that the player characters are meant to be experienced adventurers. These are individuals who have trained and survived In a world filled with magic and danger, while the players themselves might forget to mention they're looking for traps or readying for a fight, it's reasonable to assume that their characters wouldn't miss that. The main focus of a successful DM is that everyone around the table should be having fun as much as possible. Avoiding gotcha DMing and staying on the player's side is a great step in this direction. You can also improve your sessions by using abstract secrets and clues. To learn more about them, check out this video.